So here we are. Urban Witch Doctor. I'm back. Where have you been, you may ask? Why are there things back 2 or 3 years in here that are still appropriate? Well, here I am, podcasting from New York City. I was on a long journey myself of rediscovery, of information, of education, and have taken a deep dive into a different kind of witchcraft, which is Chinese witchcraft, and it's called acupuncture and herbalism. So that is that. So I don't get any scuff and guff regarding appropriation. I am not Asian, but I was invited to be and had registered for a very prestigious Asian medical school in the United States, and I did it, and here I am. What I found was that it's really all the same in a lot of ways, just about moving energy, changing direction, moving illness out of the body. In Chinese medicine, they call illnesses evils. So it's like being possessed by a thing that gets into you, be it wind or heat or whatever evils there are. You can actually explore those easily online and read about that. But there's also a lot of things about possession and ghosts on you and spirits on you. And there's whole very large parts of Chinese thought and Asian thought that are like astrology or our astrology. And it's just amazing. So much stuff. So if you're interested in another type of witchcraft that I would recommend very strongly, you investigate that. Plus, it's a wonderful way to heal your body. So now, speaking of healing bodies, I also do Reiki, which is a Japanese modality. And Japanese modalities, I find, are a little lighter in touch and not as strong and forceful as, say, Western thought or European thought. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the time of year. It's Beltane time, and that the fact that it's not just one day that's Beltane, which is, April 30th into May 1st. And then it goes on. It goes on until the Midsummer Eve. And then we have on June 20th or so, we have a change of season, a change of energy. In the Chinese calendar, we're already in summer here. It's May. What's today? The 12th. And we are already in summer as of a few days back. And you can see that if you look at the plants around the United States and Europe, where most of my listeners are. You can see that it is already past the blooming stage. The first crocuses and tulips and other such root type flowering things are dying off or just lost their pretty, petals. The cherry blossoms on trees are gone. The dogwood and the magnolia have bloomed and are gone. And we're turning green. So that's something to pay attention to if you're interested in witchcraft or if you're interested in any type of natural type of magic. That's something to pay really deep attention to. I think in the beginning we all start talking about moons and how the first thing we learn about is the moon, whether it's waning or waxing. And remember, waxing means getting bigger on the right side and waning means getting smaller on the right side, but it's opposite in Australia and in the southern hemisphere. So it's the opposite. It's on the left side. But be that as it may, then one of the first things we're taught as witchlets is to look at the moon. But there's other things. The earth herself is telling us a lot of things. And the God himself is showing us very strongly exactly who he is and where he is in this part of the year. So also in the Greek traditions, the rising of the green is Persephone. And she's rising up from the underworld where she spent half the year with her husband Hades and is rising up to meet her mother and Demeter and to walk the earth again and flower us with, buds and blossoms, and her mother will make harvest come to us as well. Food growths will happen for us humans. And that's that part of things. Also, there's other traditions, and there's the Celtic tradition and the northern UK area, where they in Scandinavia, where they talk somewhat about the green man and the ivy, the oak, and the other side. My mind went off, but there's lots and lots of traditions regarding the earth. So the oak and the holly. I'm sorry. I'm sure that anybody out there who knows that just yelled at me like, stupid, what's wrong with you? But I just forgot. But the name. But it's also a tradition to look into about how one form of the god takes down the other, and how the year is split into two parts, and how one rises and the other dies. There's really two parts to the god form. So all of those things can be explored. And speaking of magic, and I think people like to know about practical magic, one of the things I've explored recently that I love on TikTok, and I do like TikTok for many things that I enjoy. Witch Talk is a cool place to visit, and there's a lot of young and or experienced witches on there talking about the things they've learned, the things that they do, the things that they've come across. And also, I love this. In America, we have a store called Dollar Tree. They have Dollar Tree hauls for each holiday. And I think it's amazing that you can go and buy a $1 jar or a candle holder, and it's all within the aesthetic of a single holiday or a moon or a magical spell that you're working on. So I would strongly suggest, if you have that in New York City, we have 99-cent stores, which nobody's 99 cents anymore, or $1, but they do have these kinds of things. So if you go in with the mindset of having a beautiful altar set, if you have the place to store such things as well. In New York, that's not so easy. But if you have a place to store such things, you can make each and every ritual you do an aesthetic, beautiful thing. And so I would recommend, if you have TikTok, to go on over there. You might find them on YouTube. You might find them in other places as well. Anyway, so what I want to talk about is the Beltane season, and talk about the whole idea of it and what it means to us as pagans and witches, and what spells kind of do best at this time of the year. So at this time of the year, of course, we're talking about the combination of the god and goddess being together. Their marriage is on Beltane, and they are forming a union. It's just been said that anybody who gets pregnant on Beltane will have a blessed baby. So it used to be in the past, people would try very hard to get pregnant on May 1st. Well, if you think about the reason of it, what's 9 months after? You have somebody who's had a birth around in the early winter, and they are then in their cave, in their home, in the hearth, and the babies can be nurtured and fed and suckled. And then when it is beautiful out, they are strong enough to be out in May or June again. So when it's not cold any longer, when the blossoms have come, when the food is available, and when the mother's milk flows freely. So this is why it's good to get pregnant, or used to be good to get pregnant on Beltane, or it was an aim so that your children would survive the harsher months of the year, so they wouldn't be out of the womb. So we used to follow what they call rutting, or breeding, or fertility games of other animals and species on the planet. You know, if you look around, it's obvious that birds are making babies, and rabbits are making babies, and everybody's making babies, okay? And so humans used to do the same, used to try to impregnate themselves at the best time of the year. And so there you go. And that was trial and error, I am sure. Anyway, spells. Everybody loves spells. So I have had 10,000 people look at this podcast, listen to this podcast. Thank you very much for your participation in this. I really am honored, but I think it's about spells. So let's talk about spells. Okay, so we can talk about love spells. Now, very available on the internet. Now, when I became a witchlet, there was nothing, really nothing. There were witchcraft stores. There was one in Manhattan in New York called Enchantments. It's still there, but it's under new hands, and it's different, but it was there. It was kind of gritty and hippie and cool and sexy, and we were there all the time, my friend Maggie and I, who started being witches together way back in the day. And we used to buy things there, but now you can buy things everywhere. I do find that botanica sites, things that are more for Santeria, for, African or South American based magical type spell work, Those are like a lot available on the internet, but there are other places too. There's like a large place called Azure Green, and there's others. If you want to just poke around in Google, you'll find other places that do offer spell candles, incense, those types of things, which are a little harder to come by. Some of the things I'm going to talk about, and I'll talk about Dollar Tree and 99-cent stores as well along the line. So let's talk about love spells, which everybody wants to know. It's love and sex. First, love. If someone loves you, it's good to do a love spell. You can help the love blossom further and bigger and stronger. If you're getting married, if you are engaged, if you are with a partnership that you know is blooming and blossoming and full of joy and love, go ahead and make it better. That's fine. If you aren't and you have your eye on someone and you want that someone to love you, only do these spells if you have an inkling that it's true. If you are obsessed and you're not sure, you could mess the whole thing up. I have done this. I know for sure. I have done it several times because it's so hard to not do it. I did it actually twice. One, I did it and I am still married to that person and in a partnership with that person, and because it was the right person. And we are still together and we are bonded strongly. We even had a binding ceremony, and it stays through many troubles and many problems. But I did it also with somebody who had no interest in really being with me aside from just some games. And I became obsessed with this person for almost a decade. So I strongly suggest you don't, unless you're sure. I mean, it might be fun to have that person suddenly blink and go, "Wait, I think I love you." That's your business. I'm not telling you to do or not do. I'm just telling you be cautious. Anyway, love spells. These are pink. We want the color pink. Why? Because the blossoming of love, the blossoming of sexual feeling. Pink roses are for friendship and closeness and love. So we want to pull into our system the color pink. Maybe white, but mostly pink. White if you want to have something that's very chaste. It's a love that's just always going to be not sexual. That's always going to just be like a friendship, or that's just a chaste love, a celibate type thing. That's fine. But pink starts the whole thing up. And if you think about genitals and the colors they turn when they get aroused, if you're of Caucasian descent or even not, you will see some pink rise in places that you didn't know it could be, or you're quite aware of it. Anyway, so pink is the feeling of that arousal, that beginning, those buds, those beginnings. So you get pink candles. Now online you can find pink female and male candle candles. They look like statues. They're little candles. And you can engrave upon them the person's name. If you know their birthday, even better. If you know their mother's name, you write son or daughter of mother, because we are our mothers. We carry our mother's mitochondria, right? We are our mothers. We rise from our mother's womb, just like plants and animals rise from their mother's wombs. So the mother being the earth. For plants, that's their mom. So that's what we do. We put the mother's name if you can. If it's something that's really important to you, like you really want to seal a love, like it could be for a hand fasting or something like that, you could use your blood, a drop of blood on each one of you. If it's a choice, both people can do that. It doesn't matter if you have 2 women, 2 men. If it's a love, it doesn't matter. You don't have to use anything but the sex candle that represents you. And if it's both, use both. Tie them together and make one. You can actually tie them together with string or something like herbs around them and make one being. If you are somebody who has multiple different kinds of ideas of inside your body, of different kinds of feelings. So, fine. Anyway, that all said, you can start it. If you want to grow love, you want to grow it on the new moon. So you want to start that on the new moon, which means you look up in your little ephemeris based on the month and see when the moon is new. This has become so simple. I have a big book that can happen to be what I used for years, but now I just go into Google and it tells me when the new moon is. Perfect. I can also download apps onto my phone, which I have, which tell me what sign we're in. So you want signs that mean, if you can, astrologically beginnings. So like Aries is a beginning, but Aries is fire. So if you want a hot love, maybe Aries new moon would work for you. But if it's not that you can look up all the different zodiac astrology meanings for each one for beginnings. So it could be Taurus, which is a more grounded love. It could be Gemini, which is an intellectual kind of a bonding love. It could be Cancer, which is a homey kind of warm, mothering kind of a basic love of pregnancy and children. You could be Leo, which is an expansive, big love where you both go out into the world and check everything out together and become stars in your own rights. On. You can go through the entire zodiac and pick a love that you want. It doesn't have to be on the full or new moon. If you really specifically want, say, for example, a love that travels the world with you, you might want to find out when the moon is in Sagittarius. So basically, though, being, witches, we try to look at the moon, and if it is waxing, that's when we're going towards something that's growing. If it's waning, it's taking it away. And that you would use to break up a love, if you wanted to do that. If you wanted to slowly move out of a love or to have a loving separation or divorce, that's a way to go. Now, sex. Sex is also very, very, very strong at this time of the year. Of course, not every moon is going to fit every single season at the very moment you want to. I had a teacher that told me, listen, the moon is full someplace. Someplace in the universe, the moon is full. If you need to do a ritual, do it. So I agree with that, although sometimes it makes me squeamish because I like to stay strict. I do have Virgo Mars, so I like things to be very organized, but he was right. So anyway, the same thing for sex. So that color is red. Red, okay? Because of the heat of sex, the heat of fertility, the heat of ovulation, the heat of that feeling. That's why it's red. So those are your two colors for basically this time of the year. Not saying you can't use black candles to remove things at this time of the year, that you can't use purple for some kind of a powerful expression of yourself, that you can't use gold or green to make money. I'm not saying that. You can. So we're just talking about sex and love right now, and because it's Beltane season. But every season is all seasons as well. Just remember, though, if you're doing, say, it's a great time to do a money spell, as a matter of fact. If you're doing money spells and go, raising up fund spells, this is a perfect time for it because of the growth. So always know, what I would say strongly in this podcast is that always know what season it is and what's happening out there, and where is the energy, and how can I pull it in, and what can I pay attention to, and how can I make my altar represent this time of the year. I have these wreaths that I made years ago, and I refresh them now and then. There's fake flowers on them, but I make them in the color and system of the time. So when I do have my time come up, like say Beltane, I have a heart-shaped wreath with all sorts of cherry blossoms and magnolias and little violets. And so I remember every time I pass my altar, it's right over my altar, safely, by the way, high enough so my candle spells never get near it, because that's a real danger, but I keep it there and I see myself pass by and I remember. I also keep them in my entrance hallway, so I see all of the Sabbats every single day. I always remember that they're there, and they're always coming around, So that's why I do that. But that's a way to go. You can also change your altar cloths. People do that. I'm too lazy, but people do that. They change their altar cloths. They clean everything, scrub everything down per Sabbath, which is a good idea because mostly Sabbats are every 6 weeks or so, and that's a good time to do them. So as the seasons change, spring cleaning, fall cleaning, people still do those things. It's the same thing with this. You just have more opportunities to make sure that your altar is shiny clean. But it is a good idea because you do end up blending and mixing and layering energies from different spells. And sometimes that can confuse the energy. So I do recommend you clean them. And I do recommend you do change your cloths if you have cloths or whatever you're using. Wipe it down very clean. I wouldn't use harsh chemicals. That can confuse the energy. Just like you don't clean crystals that way. You just sort of leave them in, maybe salt overnight or in the moonlight. That's it. Same thing with your altar. You want maybe moon water to clean your altar. That's a great thing to do. You can take a nice jar and put it under the full moon or the new moon, whatever one you're using, or the waning or waxing moon. And if you want to remove, you can use anything that was under the moon that was, waning, going away. So that's another idea. One of the things I love about this stuff is the creativity in it, the amount of creativity that you get to play with this. It's not staid. It's very, very open. So enjoy yourselves. Beltane time. Okay, altar cloths, if you want them. Red, pink, maybe green. Venus herself, her colors are pink and green. Why? Pink for love, and certainly green for growth and fertility. So those can work too. Gods and goddesses. You can use anybody or be with anybody you want. But if you're making a specific spell for fertility, you might want to pull in Persephone. You might want to pull in Venus and ask for help. You might want to pull in, what's his name? Not Aphrodite, the other guy. Aphrodite. What am I talking about? Aphrodite is the Greek version of Venus. So there's that. You can pull in any god or goddess you want that has to do with fertility. You can work with just the goddess herself, the goddess of spring, and the green man. The green man's quite powerful. He is now growing in where I am in New York in a very full way. So you can use him as a god form if you want to. You don't have to do anything like that. You can just leave the colors and the symbol of the moon or whatever you like. See, isn't it amazing? There were so many books. I actually put my books together, and my friend Maggie and I were talking about the amounts of books we have. How I learned paganism, witchcraft, Wicca, was I worked across the street from this very famous witchcraft store in New York City. And one day I went in and it began. And I asked her, do you want to do this with me? And she was very excited to do so. And we started to work together. We actually formed a coven together for several years. And we still talk about witchcraft every week, even though we've moved far away from each other. But what we did was every week, all the time, we went and got a book every week because we were very bookish type girlies. So I'd get a book, she'd get a book, and then we'd exchange them and talk about them. So I have, at this point, over 200 books on paganism. No kidding. And I have more in my Kindle. Maybe another 100 or 150. And these are the ones I've kept. There's more. I read everything I could get my hands on. Everything. And I got it from books because although there's so much on the internet now that you can get on the internet, there's one site I love, and I will tell you, it's called Sacred Text, TEXTS texts.com. They have everything from the Bible through, witchcraft stuff and tarot stuff and all kinds of interesting spiritual things, which you can read there and I think download. Also, Scribd, SCRIBD, which I think is like $8 a month. You can get bazillion books there, and you can, get ebooks and download those and read those. But I like paper too. I like to have the books because I like to hold them and write in them and mark things. So that's my way. I like to abuse my books. But that's how we did it. I mean, that's how we did it. And that's how come there's so much in my head to tell you guys about. There's so much in my head to tell you about. I could tell you 1,000 more things in one small podcast. But anyway, back to spells. Find books on spells. There's one book I have, it's called 5,000 Spells, and truly there's 5,000 spells in this book. And it's not saying that that's the spell for you or those will be the spells for you, but they're there. You can also pick through those. You can also look in different types of the places. Like you can look in Santeria work if you're interested in that. If you have Latin American roots, and you want, or African roots, and you want to explore those things, you can do that too. There's no reason that you can't, or anybody would stop you from doing such a thing. So really look and say, what is it that I want to explore? What's my path or paths? Because I've had many paths. I've gone down so many roads and always come back to the center, which for me is Italian witchcraft, basically, because I grew up in an Italian household and we were used to using the Virgin Mary as the goddess, etc. So that's kind of like my root, and I am a goddess worshiper because of the Virgin Mary, because of my Italian heritage. However, you can be 1,000 million other things. Whatever is the center place is your strength. That's what you were given. That is your genes or DNA, and that's what calls to you. Find that first. Now, off that, and back to spells. Spells! Okay, love spells. Fertility spells. Fertility spells, if you were doing them at this time of the year, or any time of the year, I would say green, of course. Growth. And fertility could mean not just getting pregnant, but it could also mean growing a business, writing a book, growing your own spirituality. That's fertility, right? The growth of something from nothing, or the beginning of a seed growth. So that's what you'd want to do. You can change everything in your, like I said, on your altar to match what you're wanting to do. You can find the proper god and goddess for that. And if you like, and if people want to write to me, they can say, hey, go further with that. Please talk more about each god form, each goddess form. That would be a lot of talking, but there's so many forms. There's so many things. I came up with the Greek pantheon because the teachers I had were working with that. And then I explored very deeply the Egyptian pantheon, and I'm still working on that because that is endless work. So find one that I also went into Celtic work. I went into European work. I did explore Italian, Stregaria, do have some attachment to that. But for me, for some reason, the Greek pantheon calls the most, and I know the most about. Doesn't mean it has to be yours. It could be any. Whatever appeals to you. And I've known witches who were Catholic, and also very, very serious witches. So God knows the Catholic Church wouldn't like that at all. However, they were. I know somebody who was like one of the most famous writers of witchcraft work and running covens in New York City. And when he passed away, he was put in a Catholic cemetery because he was a religious Catholic as well. So it doesn't matter, whatever. I think the most important thing is the growth. And since we're talking about Beltane season, let's talk about growth for a few minutes, and then I'll end this on a happy note. Growth. What does it mean to grow in this path? What does it mean? It means you're gonna walk, and then you're gonna trip, and you're gonna fail, and you're gonna make mistakes, and things are gonna fall off and fall away, but you're gonna keep walking on the path. The yellow brick road from The Wizard of Oz. Don't you think that's what it's about? Sure. The yellow brick road. We're going to follow a path. We're going to get on this path and we're going to explore. And I would strongly say, if you're new at this, which probably you are, if you're listening to me, or maybe not, seasoned, but coming back to look or checking out new ways, what I would say would be to try everything. If you get stale, it's time to go and find something different and bring it into your practice. I have this one coven I sometimes visit, and although I don't agree with this, it's my personal issue, they invoke every goddess that they feel like for a ritual. And it seems to work for them. They seem very happy, and they say that their work comes to fruition. So who am I to judge? If you want to blend Yamaya and Aphrodite, who don't even know each other, but are similar, Yamaya is a goddess of water and a goddess of love, and so is Aphrodite. Okay, do what you need. That's how I feel about it. Not my way, but it works. That's what I'm saying. The point is it works. The point is it all works. Open your mind and open your heart and follow the voice. You may be here because you feel it or you hear it, and it's your path. And we're living in very difficult times. And so people are looking for this path, the strength, the power of this, the ritual of this, the beauty of this. They want this freedom also to create their own spiritual path. And I think that's why you're probably here, like me. I wanted my own path. I may have been raised Catholic, but unfortunately that didn't work for me. But I found my path, and I found my goddesses, and I found my power center. And so have many, many millions of other people. So I hope that you can find that. Again, I started reading The Spiral Dance by Starhawk way back in the day when she was just doing her little reclaiming coven and everything was great for her. And when she was so famous, when she came out of these other traditions that were also growing and becoming hugely famous, go explore that book, maybe. Go explore, solitary witchcraft books. I believe I'm a hedge witch. I walk between the two places. I walk between reality, and I walk into where I'm giving you. I'm on the one side of the hedge, giving you information and giving you logic, and then there's the other side where I walk with the goddess. So that's something else. Or I walk with the magic, or I walk with the fairies, or I walk with the elementals, etc., etc. So maybe you're that. I have to be. I believe I have to keep myself clear in the real world because of the work that I have to do in my life. I can't have people thinking I'm, in another world all the time. I have to be logical and I have to express myself. And so here I am doing that for you. But underneath this is the other side, is the magic, is the starlight, is the beauty of the goddess, is the eye of the goddess watching over us all, is her son the god, her husband the god, walking alongside her, coming through her, growing from her. All of these things to me are just so special and so important to know about and to feel about and to think about. Anyway, it's about a half an hour now. I'm going to go over a little bit and say to you, I wish you nothing but the best. I wish you many blessings, much love. Everything you desire in life should come to you tenfold over. May you be happy. May you be blessed. May the God and Goddess walk with you. And I'll speak to you next time. Bye.